Let's move on to our debate. Today's debate is a classic. This is a big fight. This is two great designers. We're both going in knowing these are great designers. Look, and part of the fun of this debate is that, of course, we have taken different sides, but I think Tom and I could have swapped sides and given a rousing debate as well.
This is debate club. This isn't. I feel strongly about this.
I love Uwe Rosenberg, and Tom loves Vital Lacerda.
Absolutely.
We own most of their games, but we are.
That said, Matt and Vital are going down.
Well, that being said, Uwe Rosenberg is not even a debate. I mean, Lacerda is clearly a better designer, and we're going to get into that. Tom, how should we decide who goes first?
Well, perhaps we should roll a 30-sided die because I'm really crushing it.
I'll pull one out.
While Matt is going to do that, I am going to say a few more things about Res Arcana that are going to get very upset.
Okay.
He rolled a 1. He literally just... You just rolled.
I didn't roll. I just saw
you rolled.
That's ridiculous.
It rolled, and you got a 1.
Would you like me to roll now? We're rolling to see who does our opening statement first.
Listen, Jesse, what are you doing? He rolled a 4.
Well, good luck.
Okay, let's see what we get here.
A 19. All right. So the order of this is going to be, we're going to do what did we say for timing here? We'll do like 3 minutes, 4 minutes?
Yeah, something about a 3-minute, 4-minute
opening statement. Then after that, he will do his opening. I will do mine. Then Tom
I beg your pardon. I get to choose, and I would prefer you to.
Oh, you get to choose. Okay, I will do my opening first. Then opening, and then we'll each have 2 rebuttals to things that we've said, and then we'll have our closing statements.
Sounds great. And just remember, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that is what you are. You are the jury. You are going to go on Facebook, and you are going to tell us who won. You're
just going to vote in our poll, decide who you think won. And you know, are you voting for our argument, or are you voting for the designer? That's up to you.
I think you should vote for the argument. Listen, when it comes right down to it, we're not going to tell you what's
Hopefully our arguments
stake.
Helped sway you on which design.
Right. We're not going to tell you what's actually at stake, depending on who wins. All I can tell you is that my condo is an absolute mess, and I could really use some help.
Oh, geez. Okay.
So this will be great.
I'm going to be cleaning your condo. Okay. Hi, jury. My name is Matthew Robinson, and I'm here today to talk to you about Vital Lacerda, a fantastic designer. Today, I'm going to use a metaphor to help us better understand the debate we are having. And it is one that I have a good deal of experience in.
Are you reading from a teleprompter?
No, but I have notes. As the metaphor I will use is film directors. I believe that much like the great auteurs of modern cinema, I think we can use the same lens to view modern board game designers. A game designer's body of work is much like a film director's oeuvre. And their bar by which we judge a director's work is not a single film, but their entire body of work in that oeuvre. In order to be a great director, to be one of the best in the medium, you have to have a body of work that stands the test of time. And I think great designers must be held to the same standard. There are 2 ways in which to judge said great body of work: quantity and quality. Some directors are prolific. They create a huge body of work, 1 or 2 masterpieces perhaps, a few good films, and a whole lot of filler. Some directors only made a handful of films in their life, but each one a genre-defining masterpiece. My metaphor is this: Vital Lacerda is the Stanley Kubrick of game designers. With only 7 games under his belt, each one shaped and defined our board game hobby. Vinhos, CO2, Kanban, The Gallerist, Lisboa, Escape Plan, and On Mars. 7 games, 7 masterpieces. While Uwe Rosenberg, I would argue, is John Ford. Yes, he made a couple of masterpieces. The Searchers, Stagecoach, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. But he also made 135 other films you've never heard of. Uwe Rosenberg has 220 games on BGG listed in which he is the designer. Yes, he made Caverna and Agricola and Le Havre, but he also made Marlowe, Lifetime, Comme Gleich, Bargain Hunter, Space Beans, Clunker, Titus, Babel, Libbets, Bean Trader, Nottingham, and Mercator. I ask you, who is the better director in your estimation? The one who never made a bad film? Who has a collection of perfectly manicured masterpieces? Or the man who churns them out like hotcakes, taking a shotgun approach to design and in the long run, watering down his oeuvre? I ask the jury today to decide for themselves. What makes a better board game designer? The Stanley Kubrick of board games or the John Ford? Thank you, jury. I now turn it over to the defense.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I want to thank you all for taking your time out of your long and hard days to listen to the nonsense that we've heard for the last 3 minutes. But please, this is a battle. This is a fight. So let's take the tail of the tape. Uwe Rosenberg has designed, as Matt said, over 200 games. But when you look on Board Game Geek, they do an abridged list of notable games. These are the cream of the crop. What are the games that, when it comes right down to it, are the most famous, or the ones that everyone should take note of, the ones that are remarkable and make a mark on the industry? Uwe Rosenberg has 24 games on that list. Vito Lacerda has 8. And those 8 include Vinos and Vinos Deluxe as 2 separate games. And CO2 and CO2 Second Chance as 2 separate games. That's correct. Now, you might be thinking, well, Uwe Rosenberg, clearly a much older man, and, he's been in the business for a long time. Well, as a matter of fact, Uwe Rosenberg is 49 years old. Vito Lacerda is 53. Jobs? Uwe Rosenberg has been a game designer. He designed his first game when he was 12 years old. What is that? Mozart? Yes, Mozart. Full game designer, full stop. Whereas Vito Lacerda, he was an ad man. He worked in marketing for most of his life and came to game design late after selling people things they don't need. Let's talk about awards, right? Awards is a great way to determine these things. Uwe Rosenberg, well, he has 2 different IGA Games of the Year, a Golden Geek Award, a Dice Tower Game of the Year Award, a Deutscher Spiel des Jahres Award. What does Vito Lacerda have? Vito Lacerda did get 1 award, though. He got the Jogo do Ano, which is the award for best game at Spiel Portugal. That's what he got. And, listen, Spiel Portugal is a big deal. It's not the worst thing in the world, but that's his only award. But guess what? Uwe Rosenberg has 2 Jogo do Anos at Spiel Portugal. In the top 100 games on Board Game Geek, Uwe Rosenberg has got Caverna at number 23, Agricola at 25, A Feast for Odin at 27, Le Havre at 40, Fields of Arles at 53, and Patchwork at 64. Vito has 2 games in the top 100. He has The Gallerist at 60 and Lisboa at 74. Listen, they're great games. I'm not going to say that everything Uwe Rosenberg does is great. He has this trilogy of little games, Cottage Garden, Indian Summer, and Spring Meadow. They sound like feminine hygiene products. I understand this. They're not ideal. But that doesn't mean that the sum total of the games that this guy has made are not absolutely exceptional and widely varied. Even their names. Uwe Rosenberg sounds like a code breaker that helped win World War I, or a Soviet spy that nearly cost us the Cold War. But either way, that's exciting. Lacerda sounds like an Italian sports car that's always in the shop. It's so funny because guess what I wrote, Matt? If Vito Lacerda was a director... If Vito Lacerda was a director...
It's a shame you went second.
He'd be Lars von Trier. Yeah, he makes masterpieces, but I kind of got to psych myself up to watch one. If Vito Lacerda was a TV show, he'd be Treme. If Vito Lacerda was a food, he'd be Sea Urchin. If Vito Lacerda was a comedian, he'd be Hannah Gadsby. Sure, all of them, we know they're great, but they're not great in that way that you're just dying to get it out there and get it on the table. I look forward to your rebuttal, Mr. Robinson.
Well, I'll start by saying that you said Uwe has been designing since he was 12, and it's been his full-time job his entire life. I'd say it's a lot more impressive for somebody who also still has another full-time job in addition to being a designer and didn't start till in his 30s. I think that's wildly more impressive than someone who has been doing it their entire lives and it's all they've ever done. As a man who, this is his hobby. This is his hobby, and he's coming in and giving us masterpieces. I would also say, yes, Uwe has more awards. He has more games in the BGT Top 100. Vito Lacerda games aren't for everyone, Tom. He doesn't want them to be for everyone. He makes games for himself, much like most great artists. Whereas Uwe Rosenberg has put out 437 polyomino games in the past 3 weeks, I believe. At this point, if an Uwe Rosenberg game comes out and it doesn't have a polyomino in it, I don't know if it's an actual Uwe Rosenberg game anymore. He changes his design profile so often. I have no idea what a game means if it comes from Uwe Rosenberg anymore. But I know if a Vital Lacerda game comes out, that it's going to be quality and it's probably going to be a masterpiece.
Interesting. So he makes games for himself, and he doesn't want these games to be for everyone. It's an interesting argument in favor of Vital Lacerda. Have you noticed something about Vital Lacerda games? They are all variations on a theme. They are very, very similar. If you look at the board of Venus, you will see what it is it's this huge board with tons of little areas, and each of those areas have a little mini game in them. There's the mini game of getting of selling your stuff, putting your stuff in, putting your wine in competition, of getting the mini game of getting the experts on your side, of getting the vineyards, right? If you look at Lisboa, you've got the mini game of drafting the right cards, of getting the ships, of picking up the rubble, of placing the buildings in the city. There are all these little mini games on a very complicated board. If you look at Galar, it's the same thing. If you look at Kanban, you've got the mini game of picking up parts. You've got the mini game of making the cars. You've got the mini game of getting the blueprints. You've got the mini game of testing the cars on the track. I guess what I'm saying is they're all great games. I love it and I love playing them, but how do you get points for basically creating a different theme and switching up exactly what the mini games are, but essentially delivering the same game experience over and over again? Bonanza is an amazing card trading game. Agricola is the worker action space game that changed the entire industry. A Feast for Odin introduced a whole new element. Suddenly now everybody is coming up with spaces where you can put 2 or more workers to get a better action than you had before. That wasn't done before there. Le Havre, his follow-up to Agricola, a radically different game than Agricola. Is it a worker action space? Not really. You only have a single worker, and you're only going to move that worker a few times in the entire game. Patchwork, a 2-player game using polyominoes. The games that he's designing are radically different. He gives you different looks, different experiences. He expands his range. Kubrick? I think Kubrick made 16 movies, and they are radically different from each other. You want to know who Stanley Kubrick is in the board game world? It's Uwe Rosenberg.
Let's talk about different games. If that's where the route we're going to go down, because I think that's a wildly big mistake on your part. Let's look at theme, first of all. I don't think you will find a designer who has never repeated a theme once again in the board game world. Literally every game he makes is a different world, a different theme, a different thing for you to learn about. Nobody in gaming combines theme and mechanics as well as Vital Lacerda. I dare you to tell me the story of one game of Agricola you've ever had. I mean, how many farming games has he made? How many different games in the same generic, trading in the Mediterranean, farming for things in Germany? They're all the same thing. Newsford was the most thematic game he's ever made, and that was about a fishing village in Norway. This man has made a game about wineries. He's made a game about saving the world from carbon dioxide. He's made a game about Japanese car manufacturers, about owning a gallery, about recreating Lisboa after a massive earthquake, of a heist movie brought to life before your eyes. About sustaining a livable world on Mars after Earth is destroyed. Stanley Kubrick gave you a different genre each time. Vital Lacerda gave you a different world and a different world to learn about. And he combined exciting, incredible, heavy mechanics perfectly in that world where one could almost say it's a simulation and a game.
I do like the themes of Uwe Rosenberg. I mean, of Vital Lacerda, I should say. I do appreciate that. Though, to say he gives you a different game each time, when of his 8 games, I will point out again, Vinos and Vinos Deluxe are 2 different games. And CO2 and CO2 Second Chance are 2 different games. Hardly he is swinging for the fences and coming up with a new theme with each game. Uwe Rosenberg doesn't do that, right? He comes up with new things. I think that the games that you play with Uwe Rosenberg are very, very different. I think the themes of Vita Lacerda are very, very different. I don't think the games are radically different. I think that they are actually quite more similar. If you told me that you could take 8 Uwe Rosenberg games onto a desert island with 4 people that you were going to be stranded with, or the 8 Vita Lacerda games, I would choose the Uwe Rosenberg games. I would miss the Vita Lacerda games, but I would be able to play more different games. They are just different mechanics. That's what games are. They are combinations of mechanics and different feel. He's got card games. He's got 2-player games. He's got multiplayer games. He's got games of every type and variety, and he has excelled in every single one of these areas. I mean, I can't really think of another game designer that has really succeeded in a card game, in a worker placement game, in a 2-player head-to-head game. I mean, this guy can do it all. There is nothing that he seems to be incapable of doing. And Vita Lacerda, what is he spawning? Who are the Vita Lacerda acolytes that are turning out games? There's nobody. He's making games, and nobody is imitating him. And you could say, oh, well, that's his greatest strength. No, not really. If you want to be the greatest designer of the world, you should be making games that are inspiring people and changing up the dynamic of game design. And Uwe Rosenberg has done that multiple times in his career. Bonanza changed the way we looked at card games and trading games. Agricola changed the entire industry. Patchwork and games like that have changed and revitalized the 2-player strategy game. It's just a fact. He is an absolutely amazing. They're both amazing designers, but one is the groundbreaker. The other one is an amazing artisan that is turning out games, but he isn't moving the needle for everybody else.
That is the end of our rebuttals. We will now move into our closing statements. I assume I will begin as I began the
Yes, sir, please.
Statements. We're not here to debate games. We're not debating who you take to a desert island. We're not debating what your favorite game is by a designer. We're debating a body of work. We're debating who has the better body of work. I will say this, and I'm not sure much else needs to be said of this. Tom owns every single game ever made by Vital Lacerda. Every single one. And yet he's arguing to you that they're all the same. He's arguing to you that the man hasn't defined and changed modern board games. Clearly he has, when I don't think he owns more games by any other designer than he owns by Vital Lacerda. Maybe he owns as many Uwe Rosenberg games. I tried to count thinking in my head how many he owns. I came up to about 9. The man's made 220 games. Vital Lacerda's made 7. You own 100% of his games. I think you own multiple versions of a couple of Vital Lacerda's games. To me, all that matters in defining a great board game designer is the anticipation one feels for their next game. I want every juror to listen to this question and answer it for themselves, and that should give you the answer you need to know. A new game is coming out, one by Vital Lacerda, one by Uwe Rosenberg. That's all you know. They both cost the same. You must buy one. Are you excited to play the Uwe Rosenberg game? Do you have any idea what it's going to be like? Is it going to be a light, randomized polyomino game that you play with your children? Is it going to be Nusford or Le Havre? Is it going to be some random thing that he's trying a different version of to see as he hones in on some idea that nobody knows what it is yet, because probably 8 more versions of the game later, he might actually crack it. You could hand over your money sight unseen with Vital Lacerda and have a 100% chance of getting an incredible game, judging by his track record. A new game is coming up by Uwe Rosenberg. There is right now. I don't even know what it is. There's probably 8 coming out in the next 6 months. Do you even care? Do you even bother to find out what it's called? Or you just wait to see if anyone is talking about it in 6 months? It could be a Feast for Odin, but it could also be Patchwork Doodle or Rakeholt or Spring Meadow or Cottage Garden. And by the way, every game I just mentioned is a polyomino game, and they've all come out in the past 2 years. Do we really need to see every cut of your movie, Uwe Rosenberg? No. Just make it properly once and release it when it's ready, much like Vital Lacerda does with every one of his games. I rest my case, and I thank you for your time.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you've just heard a wonderful, wonderful defense of a man that has designed very little in his life. He's designed amazing things, but his lack of breadth and lack of depth is basically his argument. His whole argument is, if a sight unseen, the next Vital Lacerda game or the next Uwe Rosenberg game, what is it going to be? Are you sight unseen, which one are you going to buy? I will tell you this. If you bought Vital Lacerda's next game, you bought a game called Dragon Keepers, which is currently $6,999 on Board Game Geek and is out in Europe. It is a fantasy universe in which each player is the chief of a tribe of dragon keepers defending their dragons from the attacks by the evil hunter. The hunter wants those cute dragons dead, but must get past the dragon keepers. The keepers belong to different tribes, but together they have the common goal of protecting those dragons. The keepers use magic in their duels with the evil hunter. I don't know, man. I'm looking at the art. I'm looking at the game. Oh, it's sweet. He designed it with his daughter, Katrina. That's so sweet.
She's actually the main designer of it, and he helped
Doesn't
her
seem,
with it. But feel free to attack a young girl.
Why did he put his name on first, then? It's weird. That's weird, isn't it? If your daughter designed a game and you put your name first, that's just listen. I don't want to knock one of your heroes and one of your legends, but it's kind of low. I mean, I would never do that. I would never do that to my own child. I wouldn't do that to a child that I don't even know. But I guess Vital did. Look, the fact of the matter is that Uwe Rosenberg designs fun games, and sometimes he designs amazing fun games. Vital Lacerda designs amazing games, and sometimes he designs amazing fun games. In summation, Vital Lacerda is a New Yorker cartoon. You appreciate the concept, you admire it, but it won't make you laugh too often. Uwe Rosenberg is XKCD. You get to have both. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I look forward to your vote. And just as one last reminder, my house is really, really messy, and anything you could do to help me would be greatly appreciated.
What's XKCD? What did you just say?
You don't know what XKCD is?
I don't know what XKCD?
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. What is XKCD?
The comic.
Oh, I've never heard of it. That was our debate. We will not speak on it anymore. We'll leave it up to you. I think, Tom, you did a fantastic job.
Matt doesn't know what XKCD is.
I've never heard of it.
I just want you to know that. That is the guy that is the arbiter of taste that you're.
That information is not a part of the
that you are
debate.
voting for in some way.
I was just curious what you meant by that.
Other than that, Matt, you did a great job
that
in the
was
debate
fun.
too. It
that
was
fun.
really good.
I
really
think we could have switched sides and both done a great job too. But
I absolutely could have argued the Vital Lacerda side in a heartbeat, and I know you could have argued the Uwe Rosenberg.
So go to Facebook, join our Game Brain podcast group. You will be approved instantly as long as you can prove you're not a bot.
We're getting a bunch of really beautiful girls that only have like 4 pictures of themselves.
That's why the
thing,
Facebook does it. It's good. So you know our numbers are real when you see them. Join and go and vote in the poll. Decide who just won, and we'll announce it on next week's podcast. That was really great.